Welcome back. From a distance, the whispering woods bore an innocent facade of an ordinary forest, where verdant greenery kissed the sky and wildflowers danced in the wind. But beneath its surface there was an uncanny stillness, an atmosphere that seemed perpetually suspended in a state of anticipation, as if waiting for something dreadful to shatter the calm. Elliot Graham, a quiet novelist from the city, had come here seeking solitude and inspiration. He found himself drawn to the wood's enigmatic allure, as if it whispered promises of untold stories and unimaginable experiences. This allure soon became an obsession, as he delved deeper into the labyrinth of its verdant foliage. One day, Elliot discovered a lonely cabin nestled deep within the woods, abandoned and in decay. The sight sent a shiver down his spine, but it was the curiosity of a writer that made him push the door open. The smell of rotting wood and damp soil filled his nostrils. The cabin was a forgotten capsule of time, with cracked mirrors, tattered furniture, and dust-laden windows that let in only slivers of light. As he explored, he found an old journal tucked under a loose floorboard. It was filled with ramblings of a tormented mind, telling tales of strange sightings, whispers in the wind, and shadows that moved of their own accord. The writer was obsessed with the woods and believed that they held an arcane secret, a secret the woods desired to share, but only with those it deemed worthy. Days turned into weeks, and Elliot found himself consumed by the stories in the journal. He was often awakened in the middle of the night by whispers that seemed to echo through the cabin's skeletal structure. The whispers never formed coherent sentences, but they seemed fraught with urgency, as if pleading with Elliot to understand something. One night, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, driving Elliot out into the woods. He felt an unseen force guiding him deeper into the labyrinth, where shadows played tricks with his vision, and the air turned unnaturally cold. Suddenly, he found himself standing in front of a massive tree, its bark gnarled and blackened, like a specter rising from the earth. The tree bore an uncanny resemblance to the sketches in the journal. Elliot felt a pulsating energy radiating from it, and when he touched the tree, a rush of inexplicable fear gripped him. His vision swirled, revealing scenes of horrifying rituals, of shadows moving around the tree, chanting in an ancient language, their words carried away by the wind. When his vision cleared, he was on his knees, gasping for breath. The tree stood silently, its shadows appearing more menacing. He knew then that the woods were alive, and they held a terrible secret, a secret that once known could not be forgotten. Elliot's days blurred into nights and nights into days. His mind teetered on the brink of madness. He no longer wrote stories, he was living one. He began to sketch furiously, just as the author of the journal had, driven by a compulsion he couldn't understand. His sketches mirrored those in the journal, filled with grotesque figures, eerie rituals, and the massive, haunting tree. Soon his sketches began to bleed into reality. Shadows seemed to crawl out of the corners, whispering words he could almost understand. The woods seemed to close in around him, the trees bending to whispers that echoed their dark secret. Elliot could not resist the call of the tree. It was there that he saw them, shadowy figures swaying around the tree. Their chants filled the air, the very words he'd seen in the journal. He tried to scream, to run, but he was rooted to the spot, as much a part of the woods as the trees themselves. Suddenly the chanting ceased, and the shadowy figures turned towards him. He saw their eyes, or rather the lack of them, black voids in place of eyes, yet somehow they seemed to see him, to see right through him. And then he understood. The woods whispered its secret into his mind, a truth so horrifying it shattered his sanity. The woods were alive, but not as we understand life. They were a collective consciousness, an ancient entity, and the rituals were a way of communication, of binding oneself to this entity. Overwhelmed, Elliot fell to his knees, his mind flooded with visions of the past ritual participants, the author of the journal included, their minds broken, enslaved by the woods. As Elliot's consciousness faded, he could hear the woods whispering. He was one of them now, a part of the whispering woods. His last sight was his own hand, beginning to fade, to become a shadow. As dawn broke, the whispering woods resumed its innocent facade. But now it had another story to whisper, another secret to guard. And somewhere in its labyrinth, a lonely cabin stood, waiting for the next worthy soul. In the heart of the sprawling countryside stood the Whispering Woods, a sea of trees that appeared to sway as if whispering secrets to each other. Their lush green leaves rustled in the wind, and the sunlight barely broke through their canopy, giving the woods an aura of quiet mystery and foreboding dread. Rosemary, a photojournalist known for capturing the extraordinary in the mundane, was drawn to these woods, like a moth to a flame. She sought to expose the raw beauty hidden within the somber aura of the forest. As she ventured deeper, the trees seemed to reach out, guiding her to its heart. Her camera clicked and whirred, capturing spectral silhouettes and haunting vistas. She came upon an ancient well, half swallowed by a gnarled tree. It bore an air of forgotten lore and untold stories, inspiring Rosemary to capture its timeless image. She didn't notice the strange whispering that seemed to emit from its depths. As her camera flashed, her vision darkened, then cleared to reveal a scene so horrifying that her heart skipped a beat. She found herself standing in a time long past, amidst the inhabitants of an old settlement long forgotten. A young girl stood beside the well, her face a mirror image of terror. Suddenly, a shadowy figure emerged from the well, and with an unearthly shriek, pulled the girl into the abyss. The scene dissolved as swiftly as it had appeared, leaving Rosemary gasping, her camera fallen in the undergrowth. Haunted by the ghastly vision, Rosemary decided to investigate the history of the woods. In the local archives, she found records of an old settlement that had mysteriously disappeared overnight. A single entry stood out. A young girl, the same girl Rosemary had seen in her vision, had vanished without a trace by the well. Driven by a chilling premonition, she returned to the woods, armed with her camera and an iron will. As she approached the well, the whispering grew louder, filled with anguished cries and desperate pleas. Each snapshot revealed horrifying scenes from the past, the woods feeding her the story of its tragic history. Rosemary saw the shadowy figure terrorize the settlement, abducting its people one by one. The woods echoed with their terrified screams, amplifying the sense of dread. She felt an overwhelming sorrow, a sense of loss that seemed to seep from the trees themselves. As she uncovered the wood's grim past, she realized its dire warning for the future. The shadowy figure was not confined to the past. It lurked within the well, waiting to strike again. The woods whispered urgently, pleading for her to stop the menace before it was too late. In a final act of courage, Rosemary decided to confront the entity. Armed with her camera and a talisman suggested by local lore, she stood before the well. As the entity rose from the abyss, she confronted it with the talisman. A blinding light enveloped the woods, followed by a deafening silence. When she opened her eyes, the woods had changed. They were quieter, peaceful. The whispers had turned into a gentle rustling, almost like a sigh of relief. The entity was gone, its dark presence banished by the talisman. However, one mystery lingered. In place of the well now stood a beautiful young tree, pulsating with a strange energy. Could it be the girl from the past, freed from the entity's grasp? Or was it a manifestation of the wood's gratitude? No one could tell. Rosemary left the Whispering Woods, her heart heavy yet hopeful. She had captured the wood's story, its horrors and its release, but the memory of the vision and the eerie encounter left her with a lingering dread. The woods might have found its peace, but its whispers echoed in her mind, a chilling reminder of the terror she had faced. Now, as the sun sets and the stars twinkle above, the Whispering Woods stand as a testament to the thin veil separating the mundane from the terrifyingly extraordinary. They are no longer just trees whispering in the wind. They hold a secret, a memory, a fragment of a haunting past, and perhaps an echo of horrors yet unknown. In the forgotten corners of the map, the Whispering Woods lay in shrouded solitude. Only the brave and foolhardy dared to venture beyond the eponymous trees, their branches twisted and gnarled, silent spectators to centuries of untold stories. The woods, like an age-old sphinx, held secrets within its bosom, its whispers carrying tales of the lost, the cursed, and the tormented. Elias Thornfield, a bereaved father whose life was riddled with unfortunate events, desperate and desolate, sought solace in the heart of the woods. He was led by an ancient folktale that spoke of a spectral figure known as the Veiled Lady, who had the power to reunite lost souls. As Elias ventured deeper into the woods, The whispers grew louder, revealing fragments of forgotten stories. Each echo of the past was a testament to the wood's consciousness, an unseen thread weaving the story of human folly, greed, and the eternal pursuit of the unattainable. Aided by the whispers, Elias stumbled upon the heart of the woods, a silent grove with a solitary ancient tree standing solemnly. Here, the veiled lady was said to reside. Elias, haunted by the loss of his family, echoed his pleas into the void. What Elias experienced that fateful night was something beyond mortal comprehension. The woods responded, the veiled lady emerged, and a pact was struck. In the exchange of a story, for a soul, Elias found himself woven into the woods' narrative. A sense of dread hung heavy in the woods as Elias narrated his story. As he shared his tale, he felt his life force seeping into the woods. The horror was not in death, but in the awareness of his fading existence. Yet he found a strange satisfaction in this eternal communion. The climax left Elias changed, a part of him forever etched into the narrative of the woods. His physical presence was no more, but his story remained, another whisper in the wind. The veiled lady returned to her slumber, and the woods stood silent, their whispers hushed. Yet the whisper of Elias would carry on, a tragic reminder of the father who ventured too deep, driven by love and loss. In the final act, new mysteries unfolded. The woods, which were once just a locale, had now become a character, a living being with a memory. The narrative hinted at the existence of others, like Elias, who had given their stories, their lives to the woods. A lingering sense of dread remained, a testament to the woods' power and mystery. The woods' narrative was not merely a tale, but a warning and a lure to those brave enough to venture in. And so, the woods waited, in silent anticipation of the next tale, the next whisper.